My name is Councillor Nick Wallis and I'm Cabinet Member for Leisure and Local Environment on Darlington Borough Council. Well, we've undertaken a massive consultation exercise, not only with interested groups but in general with the residents of the town. That's included public meetings. I've had one-to-one meetings when I've had an open house. People can come and talk to me and I've listened closely to what they've had to say. And of course we've had a petition which the Northern Echo organised in respect of the library proposal, the Crown Street Library. So this has been the biggest consultation exercise that I can think of. And we said explicitly that we would listen and we would act where we could, whilst at the same time having to save a significant amount of money because of government cuts between now and 2019-2020. So there have been some changes. There's been changes. We've listened as far as Cockton Library is concerned. We've listened closely to the thinking regarding Crown Street, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. And also as far as street scene is concerned, thinking about the importance of having some enforcement. So there have been some changes, as there have been in many other of the portfolios. There's been I think probably easily the biggest response that we've had as a local authority has been to the Crown Street proposals, and listening to what residents have had to say. Most of that has been around the building, and many residents see the building and the service as being indivisible. Now I've only lived in Darlington for 25, 28 years, but I understand that emotional tie, that nostalgia if you like, for the building. It's a wonderful building and it was built as a library, so it's natural that people should see it as a library. But it remains the case that by relocating the library to the Dolphin Centre, we can save £330,000 a year, year in, year out, which will make an enormous difference to driving down those costs we need to make and help support other services. I think it's also become clear during the course of our work that thinking about the library service, not about the building but about the service, actually there could be real dividends in moving the library to the Dolphin Centre, because we'll get a fresh cohort of young people and families in particular, at a time when Crown Street Library is losing people. You know, not so many people are borrowing books from there, going through the doors. That's no criticism of Crown Street per se, or the staff who do a wonderful job and think very imaginatively in trying and getting people through the doors. But libraries up and down the country have this digital challenge. People just aren't reading books anymore. We need to get the next cohort of young people and families through the doors. And actually, where it's been done elsewhere, and I had a very interesting trip to Manchester looking at how they have combined leisure centres and libraries very successfully and boosted figures. Actually, that worked rather well. So, in terms of the service, I could see real benefits. Of course, there was a proposal that's come forward from Darlington for Culture, which looked to see how more revenue could be gained from the building by putting other services in there, using the rooms for particular functions, to see whether that could support keeping the library where it is. We took those proposals very seriously, and I thought it was important that we had some independent advice. So there wasn't a sense of the council being judge, jury and executioner as far as the Darlington for Culture proposals are concerned. So we commissioned PricewaterhouseCoopers, who are an internationally respected firm of accountants, to run a slide rule over what Darlington for Culture had to say. And they met with Darlington for Culture and tested out their assumptions. And I'm afraid there was just too big a gap between the very optimistic assumptions that were in the business plan and actually reality. And I'm afraid the scale of the savings we have to make are just so critical that we simply I can't recommend to council that we take that risk. So a huge amount of hard work was done with goodwill by Darlington for Culture on that business plan, but at the end of the day, I'm afraid it just didn't shape up. No, we didn't put any figures, any positive or favourable figures, into the medium-term financial plan about the positive impact that moving Crown Street Library, the main library, into the Dolphin Centre will inevitably have, but it will have, and we know that. Already you get around a million visits, up to 1 million visits a year into the Dolphin Centre, and I suspect that will be even more, far more, with the library being in place. So that will certainly assist with the viability in the future of the Dolphin Centre, and more generally with driving down costs as far as the council is concerned. Thinking about the future of the building, I still very much hope that we can find a community use for that building. The intention in the first place of this proposal was never to realise a capital receipt by selling or leasing Crown Street Library building. It was always about the effectiveness of the service and realising a real saving in terms of revenue by the move. So we are open to any suggestions at all or advances from, say, community groups, voluntary groups, as to how that building, if council approves the proposal, could take forward and keep that building in public use. Well, two things. Firstly, thinking about Cockerton Library, the future of which has rather been lost in all the noise regarding Crown Street. We have worked with local groups and local businesses. I've had meetings, and there seems to be, and I'm sure there is, maybe I would hope with the assistance of the new Friends of the Library group, with Darlington for Culture, that we can find some volunteer or business model, maybe a combination of the two, that will secure the future of Cockerton Library. And therefore we're keeping our options open as far as Cockerton Library is concerned until December of this year. Closure wouldn't take effect until the following year. So I hope that we're giving the people of Cockerton, the businesses of Cockerton, time to come forward, work with us to seal a plan that will work. There's also been a lot of concern regarding street scene, and I have to say that thinking about verges, thinking about litter, thinking about sort of gully cleaning and what have you, residents will notice a difference next year, later on this year. When these proposals come into effect, there's only so much we can do to mitigate that. But one point that was made very strongly was the importance of enforcement. And a worry that if enforcement disappeared altogether, as was in the original proposals, well, where is the risk then for thoughtless people dropping litter if they feel it's risk-free, if you like. So we have, by altering the way in which we do some of the refuse collection and some other changes on the bring and buy sites, we found some money to keep some enforcement in place. So people who do thoughtlessly drop litter, who do flight it, should be aware that there will continue to be prosecutions and we will continue to enforce the law. But we really do need to work with residents, and we foresee, and these proposals foresee, a new role for councillors, a more proactive role for councillors in the community, organising street champions and doing some ad hoc pieces of litter picking. A piece of litter a day is what I'm attempting to do, as well as the more organised litter picking, to keep our town clean and keep it somewhere of which we're proud.